Did one of the Raiders' biggest stars deliver a stocking full of coal right before the holidays? We'll discuss that and more on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for December 27th, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you, whether you're catching us wherever you find your favorite podcast, or if you're checking us out on the YouTube page. We do appreciate both. And, of course, the YouTube page continues to grow each and every day. That's because of your support and the job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure it looks good and sounds good each and every day. We shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. I'm on Twitter as well, at your boy Q254. And the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line is wide open like some old school TV antennas if you want to be a part of the show, 707-654-4693. As a matter of fact, we'll close out the show today with as many calls and texts as possible. We didn't have any on Thursday's show. That was crossover Thursday. So Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints, he joined the show, and we kind of compared and contrast, talked about Sunday's upcoming game. But your calls and texts will close things out today on the Locked On Raiders podcast. Segment number 2. You'll hear what Maxx Crosby had to say on the Rush podcast. That's his podcast. He talked about the offseason, talked about his contract, talked about no guaranteed money on his contract. Yeah, we'll discuss all that. What does it mean moving forward? What could it mean moving forward for Maxx Crosby? We'll do that in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day. And really, when it comes down to just news and notes, it's going to be the injury report and what I'll be looking for in Sunday's game against the Saints. So we'll do that right after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word, LOCKEDONFL, for $20 off your first purchase. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. For the injury report for the Raiders, Wednesdays and Thursdays, we'll get another one later on today, and then 90 minutes before kickoff, we'll find out who is inactive. But for the Raiders, it's short. That's a good thing. K'Lavon Chaisson, defensive end, he was on the report, foot injury, not listed on Wednesday, full participant on Thursday. That's good. He's actually someone I'm going to be paying attention to on Sunday, someone I want to see finish out the season really strong. But he's been playing really well since the Raiders picked him up off of waivers from the Jaguars. Had a really good game last week. I'd like to see him continue on. So when I saw his name on the injury report, I thought, oh, no. And then I saw he was a full participant, so he should be good to go. Dylan Lobby, the running back, he was dealing with the illness. It wasn't listed on Wednesday, did not participate on Thursday. Sounds like he should be good to go, something probably minor, and he'll be able to go. He's been doing a lot of special teams work for the Raiders, nothing on offense, but he has been doing things special teams-wise. So I guess something to pay attention to, but I wouldn't really concern myself. I'm sure he'll be good to go coming up on Sunday. Now there's a couple to really focus in on these last two. Guards, Jackson Powers-Johnson, quadricep and ankle injury. He left the game on Sunday against Jacksonville. He did return, to his credit, but he missed a few plays because of that. So he was limited in practice on Wednesday, limited on Thursday. And I say guard because he slid over from the center spot to the left guard spot because Jordan Meredith was out on Sunday against Jacksonville. Jordan Meredith, ankle injury, DNP on Wednesday, DNP on Thursday. So I'm assuming that he's going to DNP on Sunday, right? I don't think he's playing. I think that ankle injury is going to, continue to sideline him, and that's unfortunate because, again, JPJ, I like him better at the center spot, but now he's over at the left guard spot with Meredith out, and Andre James is back at that center spot. And really, I mean, it would be kind of hard, I guess, to put Andre James on the sideline once he already played a game like he did last week. So even if, if Jordan Meredith was good to go, JPJ would probably still be the starting left guard. So as long as JPJ is good to go on Sunday, which I do believe he will be, again, just limited on Wednesday and Thursday with the quadricep and the ankle injury, I'm sure he'll be good to go on Sunday. Jordan Meredith, I'm anticipating, is going to be out. Now for the Saints, I'll go over them real quick. Obviously, Derek Carr is a big name. He wants to play in the game. I know Raider fans would love to see him playing against the Raiders. I'm sure the Raiders would like to play against their former teammate. And depending on how you feel about DC, you want the Raiders to win that game and really get after him. But either way, it doesn't sound like he's going to play. Didn't sound like that Ross was too confident when we talked to him on Thursday about him playing. He didn't participate in practice on Wednesday or Thursday. We'll see what happens today. I would be pretty shocked, even though I know that he wants to be out there. I'd be shocked to see him out there on Sunday. Also, Alvin Kamara, groin injury. That dude is a Raider killer, right? He just runs all over the Raiders, scores touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. DNP on Wednesday, DNP on Thursday. So I would not be upset if Alvin Kamara did not suit up for the Saints on Sunday, because that dude, he just has his way with the Raiders. But so he looks like he's going to be out. Again, I don't root for guys to be injured, but I'll root for him to be out just because he is a dude that's an absolute monster when it comes to playing the Raiders. Center Eric McCoy, elbow injury, did not participate on Wednesday or Thursday. And actually the head coach, the interim head coach, Darren Rizzi, he actually said that McCoy is going to be out. There was another player he said is going to be out, and I forgot who it is. I have to go to Ross Jackson's Twitter account to get who it is. But I want to say it was Eric McCoy and maybe guard Lucas Patrick, who is dealing with a knee injury and did not participate on Wednesday or Thursday, labeled him as the DMP. So those are the guys to pay attention to for the Saints. But Eric McCoy, I do know, is officially out, as Darren Rizzi, the interim coach, has already ruled him out. So as far as what I'm looking for in Sunday's game, there's 4 players that I'm really focusing in on. Last week it was Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers, checked that box. They fed him early. They fed him often. He had 11 catches, 99 yards. He's over 100 catches on the season and 1,000 yards. That's a phenomenal rookie season. So whatever happens the rest of the way, I'm good. Brock Bowers is gravy. Jacoby Myers now. Now I'm turning my attention to Jacoby. 73 catches, 843 yards on the season, and 2 touchdowns. I'd love to see him get the extra 157 yards and get to that 1,000-yard mark. I know that he's not going to come out and say that that's what he wants, but I'm sure that that's a goal of his. He said that he had personal goals. He didn't tell us what they were, but I'm sure getting to 1,000 yards receiving for the first time in his career is one of them. He has been just a absolute special player with the Raiders ever since they signed him as a free agent. I'm glad that he's a part of the Raiders. He was a one. The wide receiver number 1 when he's in New England, comes to the Raiders. They have Devontae. So all of a sudden he's like 1B or 2, whatever you want to call it. And then Devontae is gone. He slides back up to 1, but he never complained about his role. He never complained about how many targets he's getting, how many yards he's getting. And honestly, I thought he would have hit 1,000 yards last season if it hadn't been for Kareem Jackson with that dirty hit he had on him in the first game of the season where he gave him a concussion. He missed a couple games. So, that's not hard. 157 yards is not hard to get. I do believe Jacoby Myers can do that. Again, 73 catches is where he's at right now. I just want to see him hit that 1,000-yard mark for the first time in his career. I mentioned K'Lavon Chaisson when I was going over the injury report. He's up to 4 sacks and an interception. I don't really necessarily care about sacks and pass breakups and interceptions or whatever like that or TFLs. I just want to continue to see him playing well, right? And I think there's a case he's making for himself to be a Raider long-term. Right, his contract's up at the end of the year. I'd like to see Tom Telesco extend him, but I'd like to see Chaisson, basically force himself to be extended by the way he finishes the season off by playing really hard and showing up, making plays. Again, he never had 3 sacks in a single season with the Jaguars. He's already up to 4 in not even a full complete season with the silver and black. Plus, he has an interception. So Chaisson's a guy that I'm really focused in on. Aiden O'Connell, I'm focused in on him and his progressions. I talked about that with Ross Jackson on the crossover edition on Thursday. He needs to not just look at his first read, and if it's not there, then do a check down. He needs to be able to go through progressions. Like, we're talking about evaluation season. We're talking about what Aiden O'Connell can do to prove that he's a franchise guy moving forward. And there's a good chance that he might have to start next year based on whatever happens in this offseason. He's got to be able to, stand in the pocket, go through his progressions, right? And if the first read's not there, okay, go to the next read. You've got to be able to scan the field. You've got to have confidence in your offensive line, right? You can't get happy feet or any of that. Just has to be able to stand in there. And a lot of times, you see even the last game against Jacksonville, you see if that first read's not there, boom, check down to Amir Abdullah. That's why Amir had 7 or 8 catches against the Jaguars. Just all those check down. Got to have a guy that can scan the field and then deliver the ball. Deliver the rock. So that's what I want to see. And hey, while you're delivering the rock and you're scanning the field, take a couple deep shots at Trey Tucker. All right. I know that he's stretching the field with his speed. Go ahead and give him an opportunity a couple times to get that deep ball. And then finally, defensively, I just want to see Jack Jones have a really good game. He's been getting beat the last couple of games where they've been getting him on the double move against the Falcons on Monday Night Football. They got him for the double move. Drake London did and scored a touchdown. Jacksonville did the same thing early in the game, but Mac Jones threw a terrible ball and it sailed out of bounds. But Jack was beat on the same play, right? And so it's on film. So the slow go, the stop and go, the slant and go is there, right? I mean, that's one of those that he's going to bite on that one. So he's got to have his eyes right, just like he told me in the locker room. I got to have my eyes right. I can't be going for that. Coach ain't going to go for that. I got to be better. He's got to not only talk about it, and he's got to be about it. So he's got to go out there and have a really solid game. I like him because he does have the ball hawking ability. We know he's going to be a gambler. He's going to take chances, and you love it when he comes up and he's smart and when he gambles and he gets it right, boom, great. When he gambles and he doesn't, it looks really bad. So I'm just hoping that Jack Jones has a really good game, right? Just one of those, he's one of those confidence guys. He's one of those guys that if he makes a good play early in the game, he's going to be riding high, and he'll probably have a phenomenal game. But if he gets beat early and it looks bad or he's in a bad position, then it could be a long day at the office because he rides those emotional roller coasters. And I've seen it in training camp. I've seen it in practices. Or just, he's one of those guys that you always want him to be on a high. I think Marvin Lewis said it back in training camp. When Jack is on a high, he's great. When he's on a low, not so much. So, he's got to take that next step. So I'm hoping he can do that, not only this game on Sunday, but the final 2 games of the year. But that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. News and notes, really just the injury report and what I'll be looking for and who I'll be looking for coming up on Sunday against Jacksonville. Coming up in segment number 2, Maxx Crosby had a lot to say on his podcast, the Rush Podcast. And, well, right before the Christmas holidays, got Raider Nation a little hot and bothered by what he had to say. We'll talk about it. You'll hear what he had to say. We'll do it in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Game Time. Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. And the live event doesn't have to be just a sporting event. They've got comedy shows, theater, concerts, anything that you can get a ticket to. A live event is a live event that Game Time has covered. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets for live events even easier. The filter, it filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. There's so many different things they have in the app that are really good. The all-in pricing, so you know exactly what you're going to get and how much it's going to cost you before you go check out. It's not going to be some estimation, then all of a sudden some surprise amount. Seat views is one of my favorites. You actually get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy your tickets. They've got the lowest price guarantee and their ticket coverage. Your purchase is always covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Right now, download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Time to hear from Mad Maxx Crosby, the leader of that Raiders defense, really the face of the Raiders team in general. He's got his podcast he does a fantastic job with, the Rush Podcast. He's on many other outlets as well that he does a great job with. He's got a real feel for, the podcasting and kind of the media industry. He's doing a really good job with that, as well as everything else that he does. Obviously, he's on IR. He's out for the season, but he'll be, back ready to roll in 2025. But the offseason and the conversation and what he had to say about the offseason is what caught a lot of Raider Nation's attention. I'm sure it caught the Raiders' attention as well, even though it's not something that they weren't aware of. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, right before Christmas on his podcast, he started talking about the offseason and, well, how he's excited about it, but there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Here he is.
You know what I mean? Like my contract situation, like I have no more guaranteed money. There's a lot of different things. Like obviously, there's gonna be a lot of things that need to be talked about, and I'm looking forward to those conversations. So, yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Like I'm really looking forward to this offseason, the process, and I will say, like on top of it, like the Raider fans have been dope and I love them to death. Like that's one thing through everything. Like the fans have truly since day one like embraced me and being in their corner, and I think it's been the dopest shit. Like even with my injuries and all this shit, like the support has been like the coolest shit ever. And so yeah, there's so many different things that got to be talked about, so it's gonna be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
So the first part that he brings up is his contract, and he has no guaranteed money. And I've talked about that on this show. I've talked about it on my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness for Raider Nation Radio 920. Max is not going out there in 2025 with no guaranteed money. He's just not going to do it, right? They're going to have to adjust that contract somehow, some way. He's still under contract. It's just no guaranteed money. If you remember last training camp, preseason, they went and they put some, I like to call it sugar on his contract. They gave him all that guaranteed money, extra money to kind of put him in line with some of the other edge rushers in the league, some of the elite guys in the league to satisfy him. And I knew then that was just basically a placeholder, right? I believe it was $6 million they gave him kind of as a bonus. I say bonus in air quote. It was just one of those as like a placeholder to keep him satisfied and keep him, happy for that season. And that's what prompted me to go look at his contract and realize, oh, wow, he has no guaranteed money after this season. So what are they going to do? How much is Maxx Crosby worth? And I'm glad that he's talking about the offseason. I'm glad he's talking about his contract. I'm glad he's talking about, just the direction that the team is going and how they're going to win, because he does want to win. Because I've wondered, the value, how much Maxx Crosby is worth. I know he wants to get paid like the elite of the elite in the league, right? And look, he's put in a lot of work. He's put in a ton of work. He's been the face of the Raiders franchise. He's been, up until this year, an Iron Man. But how much is that going to be worth to Tom Telesco and this team moving forward? He's 27 years old. He's going to be 28 in August. He had 7.5 sacks, 17 tackles for losses in 12 games in 2024. This is the first season that he's ever missed any action. He's played in every game, but this season only played in 12 out of 17 games. And honestly, he was hobbled in game number 2 against the Ravens, the last play of the game, when he suffered the high ankle sprain, and he wasn't as effective as he would like to be. And he'll be the first one to tell you that. No interceptions, no forced fumbles in 2024 for Maxx Crosby. So what is he worth? Where is his ranking? He's not the elite of the elite when it comes to, the edge rusher position in the league, right? I mean, I would right now say that TJ Watt and Myles Garrett are definitely going to get more love than Maxx Crosby, especially for a down year, right? Even though I know that Max is fantastic and I know that he's got a motor that doesn't stop. I get that. Like, I know everything he brings to the table, but what is that worth to a franchise that, hasn't shown that they could put a plan in place to win? And I know that that's part of it. So this is, like I said, I'm glad he's talking about it, because it's an open and fair conversation, I believe, on both sides of the coin. I believe the Raiders need to prove to him what they can do moving forward, what their plan is moving forward, how they're going to put a winning product around him so he's not wasting his 27, 28, 29 years with the team, and they're not winning, and he's just spinning his wheels and not going anywhere, right? And he also has to prove his worth as well. And what I have been saying about Max that I'd like to see some strip sacks. I'd like to see a couple interceptions. I'd like to see a couple more, pass breakups. I'd like to see a couple more 3rd and long when the Raiders need to have a sack. All of a sudden, there's Maxx Crosby to make the play and seal the deal. I'd like to see that. We don't see that from Max. We haven't seen that from Max in, quite a while. He to me, and this is just me, and again, it's always fair for you to disagree with me. That's fine. When Khalil Mack was a Raider, it seemed like whenever the Raiders needed that huge play to be made defensively, Khalil would come through. 52 would come through. And Max did that against Baltimore, right? I mean, him and Christian Wilkins sealed the deal in that Ravens game week 2, and then he hurt his ankle. So, again, he was compromised most of the season. So it's not like I'm sitting here saying, well, he didn't have a good season. He was fully healthy. He wasn't. The majority of the season, he was injured. But, again, when you're asking for more money, when you're asking for guaranteed, when you're asked to be paid like the ones that are sealing the deal, the ones that are getting the strip sacks, the ones that are, coming up with the fumbles, the ones that are game changers, the one that is literally changing the game. When you're asking to get paid like that, you also have to say, okay, and this is what I bring to the table to warrant that money. That's why I think this is a really good back and forth conversation, 2 ways, not just from the Max side of things and definitely not just from the Raiders side of things, but a collaboration. The Raiders have to prove to him his worth, and he needs to prove to them his worth, right? And also the Raiders need to prove to them, how are they going to build a winner? What are they going to do so he's not just spinning his wheels? And, this is one of those off seasons that Tom Telesco is going to have to go up and down that roster and say, okay, is Maxx Crosby, is he more valuable to us? Or is he more valuable if we were to move him and bring capital in? Do we have a plan? Again, it's all part of the conversations, because at the end of the day, Max deserves, from what he's done, he deserves to be a part of a team that believes that they could win, right? And I know that he wants to. He wants to get it done with the Raiders. I know that, no doubt about it. And I want to see him get it done with the Raiders. Again, I mean, he's the face of the franchise. His billboards are all around town. Would love to see him get it done there. But at some point, if they keep resetting, remember, he was one of the guys that was campaigning for Antonio Pierce. Well, what are they going to do with AP this offseason? Are they going to bring him back? Are they not going to bring him back? Right? Did that prove to not be a good idea? Well, I was campaigning for AP as well, but I'm not in that locker room, right? I'm just giving my opinion. He's in the locker room. He's the guy out there playing, right? And does he still feel good about that? Clearly, Devontae didn't feel good about that after he campaigned for AP to come back. So this offseason, I say it all the time, it's never a dull moment covering the Raiders, being around the Raiders organization. It's never dull for one reason or the other. This is going to be something. I wouldn't sit there and take what he just said and like, oh, he's going to go out and demand a trade, because that's what I've seen on social media and from some big time outlets that are saying, to expect Maxx Crosby to ask for a trade. I don't expect that, but I do expect to have some serious conversation, and not me, them, the organization and him, with what direction they're going, how they're going to get there, what his worth is to the organization, and what his worth could be potentially outside of the organization. So yeah, buckle up, Raider Nation. You know that Raider roller coaster that we're always riding? Yeah, that bad boy is about to take off again following the season. It's only a couple games left. So that's what I got for you for segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts are next. We'll close out the show at 707-654-4693. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about our great sponsor, that is Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Maybe you studied those things in school. Maybe you didn't. And if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they haven't changed the basic fundamental truths about the world and our place in it. So our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope, and many others. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. What you need to do right now, go to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Your calls and texts. Let's go ahead and start things off with Big Mike from Niagara Falls. He's calling to talk about first-round QBs, the reality of them, plus he chimes in about AP and what he hopes when it comes to if or not he returns in 2025. Here's Big Mike from Niagara Falls.
Hey, Q, it's Big Mike from Niagara Falls, Canada. Man, it's one of those things, losing second, third overall draft pick. It does suck. But the one caveat is nothing's guaranteed in the first round. As a matter of fact, most of the time, first-round QBs aren't all that, if you play the numbers game. Historically, up until recently, we weren't taking QBs in the first round because you had to sit them, let them learn, et cetera, et cetera. So as much as I want a franchise quarterback, Ward or Sanders may not be that guy. However, if we were picking second or third, I would love to take them. It's just a caveat, glass half full mentality. And the other thing is with Antonio, man, I hope you give him another shot. I mean, he worked with what he got, and it wasn't much. I mean, his game management wasn't great. He's going to have to learn from his mistakes. But man, if they fire him, it's just another carousel. I know the fan base, half of them want him, half of them want him gone. At the end of the day, it's just been the same old story for the Raiders. Coach lasts 1-2 years, gone. New GM, new coaching staff, the whole kit and caboodle. We can't have that anymore. We need some continuity. I think, given the situation he's in, I think he deserves a second chance. Anyways, Merry Christmas. Thanks for everything you do, man. I love your podcast. Go Raiders.
Big Mike, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, the truth is all first-round QBs don't pan out. As a matter of fact, more times than not, only 1 or 2 of them will pop. And this, past year, it looks good, right? You've got Jaden Daniels looks really good. Drake May, he looks good. You got Bo Nix, obviously. He looks good in Denver. J.J. McCarthy, never got to see him because of injury. Michael Penix just now starting to see him. Caleb Williams, he played on Thursday Night Football. He looks all right, right? But there's such a mess going on in Chicago. Who knows? This year is only, 2 first-round QBs? Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. The most likely, both guys aren't going to pan out to be really good. There's a chance that neither one of them pan out to be really, really good. That's the reality of it. You go back and look at the history of first-round QBs. Go back and do the research. I mean, I can do a whole show on it. You go back and look at all the quarterbacks, first-round dudes, and see how most of them, a lot of them don't pan out. So, no, there's absolute truth to that for sure. As far as AP, I'm with you. It kind of feels like the writing's on the wall, but we'll see. Obviously, Black Monday is coming up pretty quickly around the league, and we'll see who's in and who's out. I'm hoping that he has a chance to come back. Like I said the other day, I'm hoping he can come back with a quarterback and an OC of his choice, but that's me. And, he might not have done enough. And clearly, in a production-based business, and you only have 3 wins on the season, that's not enough. So, the ownership might look at what he's done and don't think that it has an opportunity to grow and be that guy. So we'll see what happens. But thanks so much for the call. I definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Raider James from the 916. Says, hey, Q, it's Raider James here from the 916. I wanted to comment about fans wanting us to lose out and upset that we won versus the Jaguars. These players, coaches, and staff have pride and all work very hard through the week to get a win and secure their job. I want the best draft pick we can get, but I don't ever want to see us lose. Happy holidays and just win, baby. That's Raider James from the 916. Yeah, I don't really have to say anything to co-sign that. I think you said it all right there. I've been saying that really all week, and, I get it. I understand the draft spot, and I understand, how winning is actually hurting the Raiders, but there's no way that any of those players or coaches wanted to lose that game. They don't want to lose any game, especially not that game. So they're going to try to win out these next 2 games starting on Sunday against the Saints. Thanks for the text. Up next, got a call from 6'7" from the west side of Phoenix. He's calling from a coach's point of view, talks about the win versus the Jags and his overall thoughts on the Raiders as a team.
Yo, Q, Raider Nation. It's your boy 6'7" from the west side of Phoenix. Watched the game against the Jags. I was pumped up about the win. A little bit about me, I guess. Been coaching since 1995, track and field, basketball, football, soccer, so on and so forth. But right now I coach collegiately here in town. But I've never, ever wanted to lose a game. If we're trying to base everything off a franchise pick and to think that one player is going to be the savior, it'll never work out like that. Obviously, everybody knows that football is the ultimate team sport. So to put one thing on a quarterback or saying that one player is going to take us over the top, I know, and everybody that's calling in pissed off or saying that, AP should have tanked or the players should have tanked is BS. Anybody being an athlete, me being an athlete, I've never wanted to lose. So I'm not sure why everybody's mad about them winning. And I had my neighbor across the street coming over yesterday saying, hey, he was pissed off that we won the game. That was stupid. I don't believe it was stupid. That's from an athlete's perspective, from a coach's perspective, from a team perspective. I never want to lose, man. So I'm not sure why people are pissed off about winning. If we get the first pick in the draft or if we get the 6th pick in the draft, they want the damn quarterback. Give up whatever it takes to get the quarterback, but don't ever influence losing. That's all I got to say today. Your boy 6'7", West Side of Phoenix. I'm out.
6'7", West Side. Represent. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. Yeah, and I'm glad you called. Man, that's the point again. Just like Raider James from the 916 was trying to say, that's the point I've been trying to make, man. Team, coaches, players, they're not going to ever tank. They're not going to try to win. There's too much on the line, not to mention competitive nature. I just know for myself, I'm competitive in everything. I want to win everything. There's never a time that I want to lose anything, right? Sometimes that's a bad thing, but there's never a time that I want to lose anything. Just being a competitor doesn't want – you're not going to go out there and just – lay down and let someone run over you. Oh, just because, we're going to get that draft pick. Nah, it's not going to happen. But thanks for the call. Appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Mark in Utah. Hey, Q. It's Mark from Utah. First of all, I love your show. In 2024, I spent 12,000 minutes listening to Locked On Raiders on Spotify as compared to 55 minutes that I spent listening to Taylor Swift when my daughters were in the car. LOL. On today's show, you asked what gift we should give the Raiders. I'd simply give them a change of fortunes. Consider the following from the past 22 years. 1, in 2002, the Raiders get to the Super Bowl and run to the one coach that knew us inside and out, John Gruden. I don't think any other team would have beaten us that year. 2, in 2007, we have the number 1 pick and take Jamarcus Russell. Enough said. 3, 2016, Derek Carr is having an MVP-type season, gets hurt in the last home game of the year, was never quite the same after that. 4, in 2018, Mark Davis tries to give the franchise stability by giving Gruden a 10-year contract. We all know how that turned out. This is just a short list of things that have happened to the Raiders in the last 2+ decades. I would give the Raiders better luck, a change of fortunes. That's Mark in Utah. Great points on all of them. right? I mean, the one coach that they couldn't run into in 2002 was John Gruden. They ran into him. They had to get that pick right at number one when they went and got Jamarcus Russell. They didn't. 2016, I was at that game, Christmas Eve versus the Colts, and that was the Raiders season right there. I really felt like the Raiders had a chance to win the whole thing in 2016 if that injury hadn't happened. They were just, every bounce was going their way. Things were going right. You talked about Mark Davis trying to give stability. That's the right thing to do, right? Try to get stability at the coaching position. That's why we're talking about what we're talking about when it comes to AP right now. And clearly that didn't work out. So you're right. The Raiders getting better luck and change of fortunes would be a great gift for them. So hopefully they got that, and we'll see the fruits of that coming up in 2025. But thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. Just got time for a couple more. Jacob in Wilmington, he's calling to talk about what he saw on Christmas while watching the Kansas City-Pittsburgh game and his thoughts on Antonio Pierce.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Raider Nation. Merry Christmas, Q. Merry Christmas, Ari. This is Jacob from Wilmington, North Carolina, the skateboard company guy, TerryDex.com. Yo, I'm watching this game on Christmas between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs. And, man, it's giving me goosebumps because I think about the darn Raiders on Christmas. Man, we brought it to them for 60 minutes. It was not even the same kind of ball game. And, you know, we did that in Kansas City. And it just makes me think, you know, Mike Tomlin's got this team going to the playoffs. And that mustache guy for the Kansas City, all he does is eat cheeseburgers. And I got to say, Antonio Pierce, yo, he's my coach. I love this guy. He drives lowriders. He's from Los Angeles, like Raider Nation. This is Christmas, man. Can we grow this guy? Because I love Antonio Pierce. Can we please keep him? Can we please keep him? Just for me. It's Jacob from Wilmington, North Carolina. If you disagree, that's okay. But dang it, I love Antonio Pierce, and I hope he stays a Raider. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and everything else. But goodness gracious, I just wanted to cape for Antonio Pierce on Christmas because he's my guy. Love that guy as my coach. Please play this because I want my flag to be put down. Antonio Pierce. Keep him.
Jacob, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, man, watching that game reminded me of the fact that if you look at Christmas to Christmas, the Chiefs have lost 2 games. They lost that last Christmas in 2023 to the Raiders, and then they lost, 5 weeks ago to the Bills, and that's it. They actually looked like they're getting healthier. They looked really good on Christmas for everyone to see, and trust me, everyone saw it. I don't want them to win a 3rd championship. I don't want them to hoist that Lombardi, but, man, they look like they are really stinking good. And when I say everybody watched it, everybody watched it. Christmas Day viewership, Ravens and Texans, 24.3 million. Watch that on Netflix. Chiefs and Steelers, 24.1 million. Most streamed NFL games in U.S. history. Viewership for Ravens and Texans peaked with Beyonce when she performed at halftime, over 27 million viewers. So when the NBA says, yeah, hey, the Christmas Day is our day, you can't have it, the NFL's like, yeah, we can. And we do. We got it now. And they did on this past Christmas with all that viewership. But thanks so much for that call. I do appreciate you. We'll close out with a text from Jay Black from Gville. Hey, Q, it's Jay Black from Gville, Virginia. I'm a 2nd-generation lifelong fan of the Raiders. Want to reach out to send a shout-out and say I really enjoy your show. It's my first listen of the day and has been for the past couple seasons. I appreciate your content, insight, and just the fact you keep it real, 100. I believe you are the real voice of Raider Nation. Also, I'm down with seeing us roll the dice and seeing what AP can do with the handpicked staff and a full offseason. Get some help on the O-line, and because I believe we are 1 quarterback away being a playoff contender, I say let's take a chance and move up in the draft and get the best available. All right, that's all, folks. Be blessed, Q. Raiders, love you, Raider Nation. Jay Black out. Thank you for the text. Thank you for the compliment on the show. I do appreciate you. And I'll say this. I think the voice of the Raider Nation is Raider Nation. I really do. I'm just a Raider fan. I'm just a guy that, just like everyone else that I get to talk to at Allegiant Stadium, so knowledgeable about the team. And I always say Raider Nation is the smartest fan base. They know exactly what they're looking at. They know why they're looking at it. They know what needs to happen. I mean, I love talking with Raider Nation just because I know that you're a very smart fan base. So I think, Raider Nation in general is really the voice of Raider Nation. Just it's the loudest and most passionate, and that's the beauty of it. But thank you so much, like I said, for the compliments. And like I said in the other day, I would give AP his own offensive coordinator of choice, his quarterback of choice, who he feels like he can win with. But again, that's me, and he's gonna have to go and lay that plan out to Mark Davis and Tom Brady and everyone else, and see if they'll go for it as well. If so, great. If not, well, then it'll be Black Monday, and then the Raiders will be looking for a head coach as well. Like, there's, again, going back to what we talked about in segment number 2, this offseason being, one that you got to buckle up. You're going to get on that roller coaster. It's going to be a very busy offseason, and it could get as busy as talking about, a new head coach, right? It's not guaranteed, but it's not guaranteed that AP will be back either. So we'll see what happens. But, the Tom Telesco and company are going to have to decide, is this roster, is it a quarterback away? Right, because they might have to trade up to go get their guy. If they do believe one of those two guys is their guy, they might have to do that. But again, that's if they believe, hey, we're only that quarterback away from being a playoff contender. Again, that's all part of the plan that they've got to roll out. They got to roll that out to Maxx Crosby, as we talked about in segment number 2. AP's got to roll it out. I mean, there's a lot that's going to go into it. That is for sure. But thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate you. That's all I got time for on today's show. We'll send you into the weekend the right way. Of course, the Raiders and Saints Sunday in New Orleans. So if you're going there, traveling, be safe. Enjoy the game. If DC plays, he plays. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Whatever the case may be, we'll be back on Monday talking about the results, talking about who stood out, who didn't stand out, and get ready for the last week of the regular season for the Silver and Black. So enjoy your weekend, Raider Nation. Appreciate you as always. Be good. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.